Hello everyone, it's me, Demetrius Villa from the High Speed Rail America Club, and I'm here with a special guest today from Pennsylvania. This is Brian Pitzer from All Aboard Erie. How you doing, Brian?
Good, Demetrius. Thanks for asking me to join you today.
No problem. Okay, so tell me, Brian, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started with High Speed Rail.
Well, I've been interested in railroading and high-speed rail virtually all of my life. One of my earliest memories is standing on the front porch of my grandmother's house in a town called Transfer, Pennsylvania, so named because the trains would stop there and passengers would switch from one railroad to another. I can remember standing on the porch there and watching the trains go by. Both my grandfathers worked on the railroad, as did my father briefly. And I've just had a fascination and interest in railroading all my life. I got involved with this group called All Aboard Erie in 2009, shortly after they formed. I was in Chicago at the time the group got started, but when I returned to the Erie area, I joined the group and I said, how can I help? And they said, we'll make you executive director. So I am now the executive director of All Aboard Erie. And as I said, we've been going since about 2009.
Oh, so what a step up. You come on in and they already make you executive director. Wow. And when did All Aboard Erie begin? I'm interested in hearing about that.
All Aboard Erie is an outgrowth of another group in town called Civitas. And Civitas was an organization that was very much involved in civic kinds of projects. And they recognized the need for a transportation advocacy movement in our region. And that's how our group got started, to advocate for better transportation options, not just high-speed rail, but also for transit and pedestrians and cyclists and the whole gamut of transportation. And my particular interest is high-speed rail, so that's the facet I've been most focused on. And it's probably our leading project with All Aboard Erie.
All right. And I hear you guys are doing a Kickstarter for All Aboard Erie. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. About a year or two ago, we learned that another organization out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, called the Northeast Indiana Passenger Rail Association, had a feasibility study done for potential high-speed rail connecting Columbus to Fort Wayne to Chicago. The cost of that was a revelation. It was only $100,000. And when we heard that, we thought, oh, we can raise $100,000. That shouldn't be that difficult. Because we wanted to do a similar study in our area. And the consultant who did that study said we should look at doing a study of between Erie, Pennsylvania, which is on the shores of Lake Erie, and Pittsburgh, about 120 miles to our south. And he said to do a simple route study, they could do that for $25,000. So our goal all along has been to raise $25,000. And one of the mechanisms that we thought about for raising that money is Kickstarter, because it's one of certainly the largest and most well-known of the crowdfunding platforms for fundraising. And there was a local expert who was very, very experienced and good at Kickstarter. So we hooked up with him, and so we launched, just last week, we launched our Kickstarter drive with a modest goal of $3,000, and we already surpassed that. So we're off to a great start, and we're hoping to raise close to $25,000. And do our route study, and then really get the wheels turning on high-speed rail in our area.
Fantastic. All right. So what is the long-term goal that once this feasibility study comes out and you guys have a plan of what's going on, what's the long-term goal for All Aboard Erie? What's going to be the plan for that?
Well, of course, we'd love to follow in the footsteps of All Aboard Florida. We're just delighted and fascinated by the success and progress that you're making there in South Florida, and building of your Miami station, which is going to be a fabulous addition to not only Miami but for high-speed rail everywhere. We're not quite that far along as All Aboard Florida, but our next step would be a feasibility study. And then we would get into possibly, which is what's generally ask for next is a Tier 1 environmental impact study. And then we begin looking at financing options. What do we need to do to make this a reality? Once we have the plan in place, we have the studies done, the next step would be finding some financing and finding an operator and an entity to actually take this to fruition. All Aboard Erie really is and probably will always be a advocacy and educational organization. I don't see ourselves becoming a full-fledged rail company or rail operator. That'd be beyond the scope of our capabilities.
Do you think now that where the study is going, and it's going from Erie to Pittsburgh, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you think it's going to be following more in sort of a plan of how All Aboard Florida has, where they're putting electric diesel motives, passenger trains, or would you think it would rather follow something like the Texas Central Railway, in which they're employing Japanese technology to connect those 2 points?
As much as we would love to have the higher speed and the electrified rail, that's probably not going to happen in our area for a number of reasons. One, the cost is higher, and second, the geography, the topography of this region isn't quite as conducive to the true high-speed rail as the Texas prairie. We probably will follow the example and the lead of All Aboard Florida. We're looking at probably 110 miles per hour to 125 miles per hour as the top speed. And of course, that's one thing that the feasibility study will tell us, is what is the optimum speed and the return on investment in choosing the speed and the routes and so on.
And I thank you so much for praising All Aboard Florida, because I'm glad that we're helping out the rest of the country here and inspiring everybody. It sure is, going full world ahead, as they say.
Yes, I mean, because of what you're doing, success with your organization, success with having rail established in Florida by 2016 or 2017 will only add momentum for what we're doing. Anytime that someone in the U.S. can experience high-speed rail, we think that will just build momentum for other people, other areas of the country wanting the same thing. Once they experience it in Florida, they'll want it here in Pennsylvania and elsewhere too.
And for people who want to go and pledge to the Kickstarter, where would they have to go?
If you go to Kickstarter, and the title of our project is Build America's Next High-Speed Rail System, Damn It. And that's on Kickstarter. And of course, if you want to like us on Facebook, we're simply All Aboard Erie on Facebook. And we are so heartened that within 3 hours of launching last Wednesday, we were fully funded. So that shows the level of support. People really believe in what we're doing.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to see that. It's inspiring to all of us also, too, to see that, the rest of the country now wants to jump onto the high-speed rail bandwagon, as we say, or more of the high-speed rail passenger train rather than a bandwagon. It's fantastic that you guys are able to do that, and hopefully that will continue to get moving. Is there any other goal after the Kickstarter or throughout the duration of the Kickstarter that you guys want to reach?
Well, obviously we've passed our goal already, our initial goal. But right. Our overall goal is to raise $25,000. Then the next step will be to raise another $75,000 to do the full feasibility study.
Okay.
And that will give us a nice blueprint that we can go to governments and we can go to foundations and we can go to corporations and say, look, this is what it'll cost. This is how many passengers it will provide service for. This is the route it'll serve. These are the cities it'll serve. And so, as an economic planning document, we think that will be very valuable in allowing us to and enabling us to really get this project moving and to boost the economic side of it, especially.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is this all sounding fantastic, Brian. And I thank you guys for doing this and for helping out the whole cause with high-speed rail, because it's true. This is the way to start getting it done, is where citizens and people from the bottom start helping out. Because as you said, we can't wait for the federal government to start pointing where things need to be done. We have to start doing it now, because that time's been past and gone. If we have to ever, start moving on with high-speed rail, it has to come from us.
That's right. I'm sorry it is that way, but as long as it gets done, we'll be happy with that. So and praises to you and all aboard Florida. I think what you're doing is going to be transformational. It will really transform Florida, and it will really transform high-speed rail not only for Florida but for the rest of the nation as well. So congratulations to you as well.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on to this interview. And guys, you all heard it. Go to his Kickstarter. We're putting in the link also in the video. We put in links as well in the description below and also on our Facebook page. Brian, is any one last thing you want to say?
All aboard.
All right. We'll end it on that.